Welcome to the session on Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is a comprehensive evolving cloud computing platform which is provided by Amazon. The entire session covers an overview of AWS Certification, AWS Architect, its building block, in-depth study of all building blocks in our upcoming sessions. In this session, we'll discuss about AWS Global Infrastructure in detail as it consists of region availability zone edge locations. We will also focus on content delivery network technology. At the end of the session, we'll talk about CloudFront terminologies. This complete tutorial is a great reference or a learning material which is completely focused on AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Exam preparations. So let's begin with AWS certification. Amazon offers 4 role-based paths with advanced level of expertise including 2 specialty certifications. Foundational certificates are basically validates your understanding to AWS Cloud, and these are optional certificates. So the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner examination is only intended for individuals who have the knowledge and skills necessary to effectively demonstrate an overall understanding of AWS Cloud. It is independent of specific technical roles addressed by other AWS certifications. For example, Solution Architect Associate, Developer Associate, or SysOps Administrator Associate. So after the foundational one, which is optional, it starts with associate level. There are no prerequisites, only you need to be familiar with the concept. Here, associate certification covers the role of solution architect, developer, and SysOps administrator. Once you have completed an associate certification in any of these roles, you may further progress to specialty in advanced networking or big data, or a professional certification in solution architect or DevOps engineering. In this learning series, we'll be focusing on Solution Architect Associate, and for DevOps Professional, you need to clear a Developer Associate's exam. Amazon Specialty Certifications offer advancement for someone interested in validating their expertise in specific area. Professional certifications are highest role-specific certification by Amazon. Now let's begin with what is Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services provide all your IT infra needs, basically cloud computing infrastructure over the internet with storage, bandwidth, and customized support for application programming interfaces. The technology allows subscribers to have at their disposal a full-fledged virtual cluster of computers which is available all the time through the internet. These virtual computers have most of the attributes of a real computer, including hardware for processing, local or RAM memory, hard disk, storage, a choice of operating system, networking, and preloaded application software such as web servers, databases, CRM, etc. Now, each AWS system also virtualizes its console, allowing AWS subscribers to connect to their AWS system using a browser. The browser acts as a window into the virtual computer, letting subscribers log in, configure, and use their virtual system just as they would have a real physical computer. So in other words, it is a bundled remote computing service that offers highly scalable resources that can be adjusted on demand. Amazon takes the responsibility of networking, storage, server, and virtualization, and the user is only responsible for managing the operating system, middleware, runtime, data, and applications. This makes it well suited for workloads that are temporary, experimental, or change unexpectedly. Here, the customer pay on per use basis, typically by hour, week, or a month. Other characteristics of this kind of environment includes the automation of administrative tasks, dynamic scaling, desktop virtualization, and policy-based services. To know more about cloud computing, please visit our YouTube link that is shown on description tab on website, which covers all about cloud computing in 2 modules. See, the way IT industry is changing and more industries are moving to cloud services, it becomes very important to learn as there will be many more job opportunities in near future. Since more and more companies are outsourcing their IT to AWS, the AWS certifications are the most popular IT certifications, and these certificates certainly add value to your professional growth. So let's go back a little and know how and when it all started. In late 2003, the AWS concept was publicly formulated when Chris Pinkham and Benjamin Black presented a paper describing a vision for Amazon's retail computing infrastructure that was completely standardized, completely automated, and would rely extensively on web services for services such as storage, etc. Amazon Web Services was launched in 2006 to provide online services for client-based software, application, and websites via HTTP, REST, or SOAP protocols. Amazon bills customers for Amazon services based on their usage of various Amazon Web Services. And in just over 10 years, it has gone on to transform the IT industry in an era of widespread cloud computing. By 2007, Amazon had more than 170,000 developers on their platform. In 2012, Amazon launched Amazon Marketplace to accommodate and grow the emerging ecosystem of AWS offerings from third-party providers that have built their own solution on top of Amazon Web Services platform. The AWS Marketplace is an online store for Amazon Web Services customers to find, compare, and begin using AWS software and technical services. Now, these Amazon Web Services are spread across different regions to minimize the impact of possible outages and to ensure robustness of different systems. Analysts actually estimated that AWS market share for cloud infrastructure as a service stands at 33.8%, while its three biggest competitors, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, and IBM, have a combined market share of 30.8%. Analysts also predicted the worldwide infrastructure as a service market to grow $70.15 billion by 2020. So there is a plenty of market to go around. To support industry-wide training and skill standardization, AWS began offering a certification program for computer engineers in 2013 to highlight expertise in cloud computing. So see, before we move further to understand AWS, we need to understand the difference between traditional and cloud hosting. Here, local or traditional hosting refers to a scenario where digital signage server is hosted on a local area network or on a wide area network within a corporation. This scenario ensures that the network is within the control of the administrator and on location. Here, the solution included screens, players, receivers, extenders, and servers depending on location and network configuration. The picture clearly depicts the difference between the two. Whereas cloud hosting refers to a server application that is hosted on a third party's network infrastructure. Somewhere in the world where it is hosted physically is somewhat irrelevant, but the infrastructure as a service model would apply. So moving further, here is the basic structure of AWS architecture, provides best of the practices. These are not AWS offerings, it's a structure on which it is based. The entire architecture is divided into layers that are lower level building blocks, high level building blocks, cross service features, and tools to access these services. On the top of it lies application. We will talk about them in detail. Starting with AWS Infrastructure, Global Infrastructure, AWS has developed and created its highly available global infrastructure, allowing users to deploy and manage their estates all across the world through the use of the following geographical components. Components are regions, availability zone, and edge location. So what are these regions? Regions are basically geographic locations that Amazon has selected to run and operate its cloud services from. There are currently 16 different regions and spanning across the globe at key locations. Now, availability zones actually is a combination of one or more data centers in a given region. These data centers need not to be separated by multiple kilometers physically by meters within a physical compound which are completely isolated from each other. Whereas edge locations is where end user access services which are located at AWS. See, when architecting and designing infrastructure, it is very important to know where your data is being stored and where your instances and services are located. From exam perspective, this is very important to understand. At the time of making this tutorial, AWS Cloud operates 44 availability zones within 16 geographic locations or regions around the world with an announced plan for many more availability zones and regions. 16 geographical locations around the world with announced plan for many more availability zones and regions. Now let's understand what global infrastructure in AWS is. For this we will see a small clip which will describe clearly AWS global infrastructure.
So what exactly is a region? Now, a region is a geographical location that Amazon has selected to run and operate its cloud services from. There are currently 16 different regions exist spanning across the globe at key locations. AWS have spread these regions globally to help reduce latency for customers worldwide when accessing their resources. Within each of these regions there are a minimum of 2 availability zones, your resources, such as EC2 instances, reside in the region of your choice. The AWS regions are isolated from each other, but you can seamlessly manage resources in different availability zones within the same region. Regions do not include edge locations, only AZs. And an availability zone are data centers inside that geographical location. For instance, there might be a region called US East, and inside that there might be data centers. For instance, in Atlanta, New York, and those data centers are the availability zones inside region US East. So that's just a hypothetical example. So now you know what regions are and what availability zones are. So if you look at this URL, and there is this region and availability zone on the map, and you can see over here those circles in orange are the regions, and the number inside that circle shows us the number of availability zones inside that particular region. For instance, North Virginia region has 6 availability zones, and then there are regions all across the globe. For instance, as a region Sao Paulo and Frankfurt, and certainly, and as you can see the green circles, it indicates the region that is coming soon. Now, in addition to the regions and availability zones, there is AWS GovCloud, which is actually also a region, but the GovCloud can only be used by US government, so only the US government entities can use the GovCloud because they need to follow certain requirements. Now let's look at Edge Location. What is an AWS Edge Location? So if you scroll down a little bit on this page, you can see that those blue dots in North America, those are the Edge Locations. Now Edge Locations are used for services that Amazon offers, but you cannot place a resource in that Edge Location, but we can consume services located at that particular Edge Location. Edge Locations are not locations where you can place a resource, but they are locations where you can consume some of the AWS services. On this map over here you can see the edge locations for North America. If you scroll down, you'll see that locations in South America, and there are other edge locations as well. So, here in North America section, you can see that in US East there are 6 availability zones, and in US West there are 3 availability zones. They've also shown that in GovCloud there are 2 availability zones, so depending on your region you can check from this on this page how many availability zones are available. Now it's important to note that Amazon does not give the actual locations of their data centers. Now in North America, if you want to see the details of services offered, we can click this link and it will take us to this table. The region table, where we can see what services offered in which region, so you can see the list of services, and those blank spaces indicates that is not available in that particular region. So this table helps you find services that are available in particular region. And also, when Amazon launches a new service, it may start with a particular region. And if it's successful, it may expand that service to different regions or all the regions. So that's also one thing to note. So in this video we saw what are regions of availability zones and edge locations, and we also saw where the regions are located roughly.
Alright, I hope you all have understood clearly availability zones and regions. Now let's look at edge locations. Now what is an edge location? Edge location is where end user accesses services which are located at AWS. They are located in most of the major cities around the world and are used to reduce latency to end user by using the AWS CDN service known as CloudFront to distribute content to end users. Now this is basically to reduce latency. It is like front end for the services we access which are located in AWS cloud. You cannot deploy your typical compute, storage, database services in edge locations. The edge locations are reserved for simply reducing latency using CloudFront and Lambda at edge services. Edge locations serve requests for CloudFront and Route 53. CloudFront is a content delivery network, while Route 53 is Amazon's DNS service, and you can actually register domain names through Route 53. We'll talk about this in detail in our upcoming sessions. So it is important to understand CDN technology. So what is actually a CDN? CDN is a system of distributed servers that deliver pages and other web content to a user based on a geographic locations of the user, the origin of the web page, and the content delivery server. Let's take an example of a word map. Let's assume that I have a website which is running in India, and this website is accessed across the world. Suppose my user makes a request to access my website which is hosted in India. Here my user's request have to travel a full round trip from source to original server. This adds considerable latency for just a single packet. All requests have to go to that single server. Hence, user making requests from different places are bound to get different latencies. So people in North America, Canada will have longer latency than people accesses from Australia or Africa. Since internet lines go through many geographical changes, hence it also increases latency. The latency will be less in India or nearby countries. This is how it works without CDN, where you directly connect to the web server using direct internet lines. So there should be some kind of a solution. The solution is CloudFront. CloudFront uses CDN technology. CloudFront is a service by Amazon Web Services. The primary idea behind CDN is bringing the content closer to consumer for quicker access. A content delivery network is essentially a group of servers strategically placed around the world. They are primarily used to cache and deliver web content faster. Let's discuss about some of the key terminologies which are involved into it, then it is easier to understand. Since we know edge locations are the location where content is cached. Edge locations are available around the world. There are around currently 56 edge locations. We should also know origin. Origin here is where all the files, means a place where all your website files are stored, and CDN will distribute. In our case, the origin is India for our website. In terms of AWS origin, it could be S3 bucket, EC2 instant, elastic load balancer, or Route 53. In most common cases, it is going to be S3 bucket or EC2 instant. Let's talk about distribution. It is a name basically given to CDN which consists of edge locations. So when we create AWS network with edge location, this is called distribution. Let's understand CDN by taking an example again on a world map. Let's consider again a web server which is origin server is in India. AWS edge locations are all around the world. So when a user sends a request to get content, they'll be routed to the nearest CDN edge server instead of origin server, which will further direct it to distribution URL. A CDN uses its collection of edge servers to cache a website's static content on server that are closer to your user. Edge locations will look into it whether the requested content is cached to the edge location. Suppose user wants to play some video file. Request will go to edge location. Edge location will check in its cache. If it is not there, edge location will send the request to the origin server. The edge location will pull down the video file from S3 bucket that is located in India, and it will cache it to the edge location. That's all about our global infrastructure. In our next upcoming session, we'll focus on AWS core building blocks, which are like compute, storage, networking, and database. We'll take up with EC2 concepts, fundamentals, and learn how to create virtual machine for a website, etc. So there are a lot more. Stay tuned. See you next.